This is Dr. Bev Knox, and you are listening to my psychology lectures, Learn Psychology While You Sleep. This lecture is all about educational psychology. So, what is educational psychology? Well, according to Robert E. Salvin, educational psychology is the study of learners, learning, and teaching. However, for students who are or expect to be teachers, educational psychology is somewhat more. It is the accumulated knowledge, wisdom, and seat-of-the-pants theory that every teacher should possess to intellectually solve the daily problem of teaching. Educational psychology cannot tell you as a teacher what to do, but it can give you the principles to use in making a good decision and a language to discuss your experiences and thinking. Educational psychologists carry out research on the nature of students and on effective methods of teaching in order to help educators understand principles of learning and give them the information they need to think critically about their craft and make teaching decisions that will work for their students. So, what makes a good teacher? Everyone knows that good teaching matters. One recent study found, for example, that a single year with an outstanding teacher adds about $50,000 to a student's lifetime earnings. So I'm going to attempt to answer a few questions for you today. But what is it that makes a good teacher so effective? Is it warmth, humor, and the ability to care about students and value their diversity? Is it planning, hard work, and self-discipline? What about leadership, enthusiasm, a contagious love for teaching and learning? What about one's speaking ability? Most people would agree that all of these qualities are needed to make a good teacher, and they would certainly be correct. But those qualities are not good enough. Knowing the subject matters, but so does teaching skill. There is an old joke that goes like this. Question: what do you need to know to be able to teach a horse? Answer: more than the horse. This joke makes the obvious point that the first thing a teacher must have is some knowledge or skills that the learner does not have. You must know the subject matter you plan to teach. But if you think about teaching horses or children, you will soon realize that although subject matter knowledge is necessary, it is not enough. A rancher may have a good idea of how a horse is supposed to act and what a horse is supposed to be able to do. But if he doesn't have the skills to make an untrained, scared, and unfriendly animal into a good saddle horse, he's going to end up with nothing but broken ribs and teeth marks for his trouble. Knowledge of how to transmit information and skills is at least as important as knowledge of the information and skills themselves. We have all had teachers who were brilliant and thoroughly knowledgeable in their fields, but who could not teach. For effective teaching, subject matter knowledge is not a question of being a walking encyclopedia. Libraries of books and the magic of the internet make vast amounts of knowledge readily available. So walking encyclopedias are not much in demand these days. What makes teachers effective is that they do not only know their subjects, but also can communicate their knowledge to students. The task of motivating students, managing the classroom, assessing prior knowledge, communicating ideas effectively, taking into account the characteristics of the learners, assessing learning outcomes, and reviewing information. This must all be attended to at all levels of education, in or out of schools. They apply as much to the training of astronauts as to the teaching of reading. How these tasks are accomplished, however, differs widely according to the ages of the students, the objectives of instruction, and other factors. What makes a good teacher is the ability to carry out all tasks involved. Warmth, enthusiasm, and caring are essential, as are the subject matter knowledge and understanding of how children learn. But the question is, can good teaching be taught? Can one be taught to become an outstanding teacher? Well, the answer is definitely yes. Good teaching has to be observed and practiced, but there are principles of good teaching that teachers need to know, which can then be applied to the classroom. To become an intentional teacher, teaching involves planning and preparation, and then dozens of decisions every hour. Yet one attribute seems to be characteristic of outstanding teachers. It's called intentionality. Intentionality means doing things for a reason, on purpose. Intentional teachers consistently think about the outcomes they want for their students and about how each decision they make moves children towards those outcomes. Intentional teachers know that the maximum learning does not happen by chance. Yes, children do learn in unplanned ways all the time, and many will learn from even the most chaotic lesson. But to really challenge students, to get their best effort, to help them make conceptual leaps and organize and retain new knowledge, teachers need to be intentional, purposeful, thoughtful, and flexible, without ever losing sight of their goals for every child. Now, I'm going to review the Interstate Teaching Assessment and Support model for core teaching standards. There are 10. Standard number 1 is the learner development. The teacher understands how learners grow and develop. Recognize that patterns of learning and development vary individually within and across the cognitive, linguistic, social, emotional, and physical areas, and designs and implement developmentally appropriate and challenging learning experiences. Standard number 2, learning differences. The teacher uses understanding of individual differences and diverse cultures and communicates to ensure inclusion learning environments that enable each learner to meet high standards. Standard number 3, learning environments. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning and that encourage positive social interaction. Also, active engagement in learning and self-motivation. Standard number 4, content knowledge. The teacher understands the tools of inquiry and structures of the disciplines he or she teaches and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of the discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to ensure mastery of the content. Standard number 5, application of content. The teacher understands how to connect concepts and use different perspectives to engage learners in critical thinking, creativity, and collaborative problem solving related to authentic, local, and global issues. Standard number 6, assessment. The teacher understands and uses multiple methods of assessment to engage learners in their own growth, to monitor learner progress, and to guide the teachers' and learners' decision-making. Standard number 7, planning for instruction. The teacher plans instruction that supports every student in meeting rigorous learning goals by drawing upon knowledge of content areas, curriculum, cross-disciplinary skills, as well as knowledge of learners and the community context. Standard number 8, instructional strategies. The teacher understands and uses a variety of instructional strategies to encourage learners to develop deep understanding of content areas and their connections, and to build skills to apply knowledge in meaningful ways. Standard number 9, professional learning and ethical practice. The teacher engages in ongoing professional learning and uses evidence to continually evaluate his or her practice, particularly the effects of their choices and actions on others. And last but not least, standard number 10, leadership and collaboration. The teacher seeks appropriate leadership roles and opportunities to take responsibility for student learning, to collaborate with learners, families, colleagues, other professionals, and community members to ensure learner growth and to advance the profession. Now, let's do a little recap. What makes a good teacher? Well, good teachers know their subject matter and have mastered their skills. They accomplish all the tasks involved in effective instruction with warmth, enthusiasm, and caring. But again, they must know their skills. They are intentional teachers, and they use principles of educational psychology in their decision and teaching. What is the role of research in educational psychology? Well, educational psychology is the systematic study of learners, learning, and teaching. Research in educational psychology focuses on the processes by which information, skills, values, and attitudes are communicated between teachers and students in the classroom, and on applications of the principles of psychology to instructional practices. Such research shapes educational policies, professional development programs, and teaching materials. So, how can you become an intentional teacher? Before you can become an intentional teacher, you have to become a certified teacher. Each state has its own requirements regarding education, student teaching, and licensure testing. These include the test for teaching knowledge. You can further develop your skills as an intentional teacher by seeking mentors, pursuing professional development, and talking to colleagues and friends about your experiences. Please note, not all levels of school require certification for teachers. There are some private institutions that certification is not needed. Please check your state to check licensing requirements to be a teacher.